All right, moving the show along here. So we've got great guests coming up now with me. I got Trish Bertuzzi from the Bridge Group, Bob Perkins from AA-ISP. We're going to have a little fireside chat here. Couldn't be more excited to bring everybody on and see where this goes. So Bob, Trish, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah. How you doing?
Yeah.
Coming to you live from Tampa, Florida. I appreciate you guys doing a live event. I know it's a little nerve-wracking at times, at least for me.
Well, we did. Trish, did you pick up the firewood for the fire? Because this is a fireside chat. Are we?
No, but I have brandy in my mug. How's that?
It's only
that'll fire you up, that's for sure.
Oh boy. Well, look, Matt, thanks so much for having us, for allowing us to participate in Oktoberfest. I didn't have any lederhosen to put on, but we're all in the October spirit, right, Trish?
We are.
We are.
For
all right.
A couple more days.
Hey, we're going to talk a little bit about, I would call it the state of virtual selling today, because things have rapidly changed. And we'll ask each other a few questions. Trish, the first one to kind of get us started for you, you and I are hearing from inside sales leaders, even field sales leaders, we're all inside sales today, right? Because everybody's thrust into work from home, work remotely. But you and I know, having gone back a few years, that this movement to virtual selling really started a while ago. And, what do you think drove that acceptance and popularity and growth of inside virtual digital sales?
I'm not a huge fan of the terms virtual, digital, but whatever. We'll get past that. Because selling is selling, and I don't think the channel should be the naming convention. That aside, Bob, I think what has driven, I'm not going to talk about COVID. Obviously, COVID has significantly driven.
We've all talked about that a lot, huh, Trish?
Yeah, so we're good there. So I think what has driven it is different buyers are younger, right? And buyers are used to communicating using non-human channels.
Yep.
So they're very comfortable with video. They're very comfortable with text. They're very comfortable with email. Not as comfortable with the phone, but okay, that's the only way you can really have a good conversation. So I think there's their preference in the channel of communication. And I also think it leads to brevity of communication.
Yep.
Like if you're doing a face-to-face meeting, you go in, you have the chat, whatever, there's a lot of that. Pretty much you do a virtual meeting, net.
Boom. I like to say I'm a big Amazon user. I pay for Amazon Prime every year. I enjoy that experience because I'm in control. So I say today's buyers have been Amazonized, right? They're used to you said it well. Put it in the cart, buy now, go next, right?
Yeah, instant gratification.
Yeah. And I think that's where selling is headed. Now, the other side of that coin, besides the texting and the video and the quick, and you're right about the phone. I actually had a call. Somebody called me the other day and I started talking and I was looking for something. I was looking for video and I was on the phone. Besides that, we all agree that buying preferences have changed and such. The selling motion has changed a little bit. What about the human part? Is that more important now than ever? Is it still important? Is it still relationship development and people buying from people?
It absolutely is. And I actually think more now than ever, people are looking for the human connection because we're so isolated.
Yeah.
We're not engaging with the rest of the humanity in a way that is normal. We're very, very much isolated. So I think people are looking for human connections in both their personal and in their professional lives. And the human part of it also leads to, I'm going to go back to the brevity part of it. Nobody wants to read marketing copy, right? You know what? If you're going to send me an email, just tell me what you want.
Exactly.
If you're going to call me, just tell me what you want. And that is human. That's, you don't go up to your spouse and lead them down this curvy little path before you say to them, I'm going grocery shopping. You know what I mean? So I think human matters now. Brevity matters now.
And guys, real quick too, I got a funny little story here.
Yeah.
My son, 14 years old, he sits online a lot, right? Especially with COVID, and they game together. And we went out probably about 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. Him and his buddies sitting on a server, playing games all day, right? Having a fun. I mean, I've never heard my kid be so outspoken online. And then we show up somewhere to a live event to go meet another family. And one of the guys that he was online with was standing right there, and they didn't even speak. And I was like, wow, there's such an emotion like on that, that virtual presence that's different, I think, for that generation coming up, which is very interesting to me to watch.
Speaking of the human to human, we're all wondering, when is this going to end? When are we going to be able to go to a conference, right? When are we going to be able to go have lunch with a friend or go see a client? Let's talk about that a little bit, right? And we don't know when it will happen, but at some point it will happen. Do you think that a actual face-to-face meeting will carry kind of a premium, will be more defined as to what is going to happen at this meeting? What's the value of it? Will there be a little bit of a pent-up demand, almost like if you had a son or daughter that went off to college and you didn't see him for a year, they come back after college and it's this just such a great time and such value in that face-to-face with that person. Trish, what do you think about that?
It's a really interesting question, Bob, because I don't think I can answer it without putting my personal impressions in there. So for a long time, like you said, we don't know when this is going to end, but I will tell you that I know for me personally, for a long time, going into a building and into a conference room is going to freak me the hell out, right? Elevators, walls, glass, people, it's going to freak me out. So I do think that there's going to be the business and professional aspect of how we how we engage face to face. But I think people are going to bring their personal preferences and concerns to the table as well. So it really is uncharted waters.
And to your point, it's probably going to ease back in. So it's not like, oh, your son, daughter's away for a year. They're done. They're coming home. It's probably going to be baby steps, and it may just kind of ease back. And who knows? But I think the landscape of the sales engagement, human engagement, clearly has changed. It was changing well before the pandemic. I think the pandemic accelerated it. Let's talk about this pandemic work from home. AA-ISP did some recent research, and we asked this question. We said, okay, you're all work from home now. After this is over, it's safe to get back together. There's a vaccine, all that stuff. Are you going to, one, move your team back into the office where they were? Two, are you going to stay put at home? Or three, are you going to do a hybrid? And the results of this kind of shocked us a little bit. Only 20% said back in the office full time the way it was. 35% said we're staying put at home because they found some advantages. About 45% said hybrid. We'll go to the office maybe for a day or two a week for meetings, whatever, and work from home. Trish, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, I think we did similar research on the same topic. And once again, it's uncharted territory. We are finding that hiring remote opens up a much larger talent pool, and people are discovering that, right?
Yeah.
We're also finding that people are understanding, wait, if I don't have to pay $1 million a year for commercial real estate, I can take that $1 million and invest it in my business and maybe have a much smaller office. Yep. So they're finding ways to take that funding that was really just crazy money and invest it in growing their business in other ways. And I've also talked to several clients recently who are continuing to hire remote, but the requirement is it's no more than a 2-hour plane ride to headquarters. Yeah. So that if you did want to bring people in for training or whatever, it's not this massive investment in time, effort, and energy.
Yeah.
And Bob, real quick on
yes,
that topic,
Matt.
if you don't mind,
Yeah.
you know, when Henry was speaking earlier, he was talking about how we're moving to more of an intimate setting in a live scenario, where when you do things that are, you know, live in regards to being, you know, live in those events, that it's going to be a lot more of an intimate setting, right, with people that you have real intentions of being around. I mean, even with us, you know, we're in the Embark office space today, and we've actually moved away from our corporate location into more of a, you know, a place where there's a lot more happening with different small groups of people, and we have access to different office space. We're not moving, you know, 50, 100 SDRs back into the box, right? We're just going to bring in people as we need to bring them in. And then I think, you know, when Trish was talking earlier about, you know, when we do go back to meeting with our clients and things like that, it's definitely going to be a more intimate setting where we're going to be meeting with people that, you know, there's a reason that we have to meet them. It's just not going to be that natural thing where it's like, hey, all right, we talked here. Now the natural step is to go talk to people live, right? I think that step's going to change a lot.
Yep.
You know, with this thrust to work from home, we had companies with 1,000 salespeople. In 2 days, they went full from office to 100% work from home. Let's talk about work from home, because it's here. It's going to stay. It's going to continue, at least in a hybrid sense, because we did the research. We know that there's benefits. Let's talk about the benefits first. But I want to talk about some challenges that have emerged, some unintended consequences. But the benefits, right? Less time going out to lunch with colleagues, let's say, less time in a conference room down the hallway, more selling time, less commuting time, possibly more productivity. Trish, what are you seeing out there is this working? Is it better? What are some of the advantages?
Well, I think it really depends. It depends on your work from home environment. So one of the things when this first happened that we said to our clients is, right from the get-go, give your people a stipend to set up a professional office.
Perfect.
Give them enough money that they can get a stand-up desk, a second monitor, a better chair, whatever the case may be. Like physically, what your office environment is like dictates not only your health and wellness, but also to some extent your level of productivity. So making sure that people have the funding that they need to create that was a critical success factor. I do think the answer to work from home is it depends. Like imagine working from home and you have 3 kids that are doing online learning. Totally different ballgame than someone who's doing work from home like me and no kids, right? That are in the house. So, you know, there's so many variables in play that I think when companies think about their policies regarding work from home, they have to have multiple policies because it's different for everyone.
I like that. In fact, I have a son in Portland, work from home, but he also has the option to go to one of these shared offices and work there if he wants to. At least it gets him away from some of the distractions from home that you mentioned. So challenges. I don't know what I call this. I think I call it Zoom neck because I'm right here. I'm pegged to this camera.
I know.
8 hours a day. And, you know, I have one of these back massage things, but you know, what are some of the unintended consequences of the stuck at home thing, do you think?
Well, Zoom fatigue is definitely a real thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I am not happy that I have to do my hair and put on makeup every day now. You know, before Zoom, I could look like hell and still do great calls, but not anymore. So that's a consequence for someone like me.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's not for everyone. So if you look at SDRs or, you know, people young in their careers, their social lives were their professional lives. You know what I mean? That's where they made their friends. That's where they socialize. Yeah. So now they're sort of isolated from that social aspect and that part of their, and my heart breaks for them, by the way, because that's such a wonderful experience they're not getting to have. So I think when we did our research, it really did matter by age group, how people were reacting to this. So once again, variables.
All right. On the SDR note, since you brought that up, I have a couple of questions for you. I know the Bridge Group does a fair amount of studies and research. I point people to your website all the time to go look at the metrics, because you do a really good job of that. What we found just in the selling profession in general for inside sales, we found the majority of people did not hit 100% of quota last year. They're forecasting to miss 100%. Not everybody, but a good majority. What are you seeing out there with, the SDRs that largely are trying to fill pipelines and set meetings, and, where are they at performance-wise, would you say?
Depends.
Yeah.
Depends on how realistic their quota is. Depends on, are they prospecting into a highly disrupted market, medium disrupted market, hey, wouldn't you love to be an SDR working for Slack or Zoom right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, once again, like I don't know if you can see it. I have a sign over there. It's #variables matter. I'm going to give you that for every question you ask me. I'm going to say there's so many variables.
Yeah.
These are, and I hate this term, but I'm going to say it, unprecedented times. And I think as we do planning, we've got to stay focused on short-term planning, because there is no such thing as long-term planning.
Yeah, and you got to be nimble too. You have to be willing to, I think, a couple things: shift quickly, but also you got to take some amount of risk too, because as you say it, you don't know what tomorrow is going to bring.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked a bit about back to normal, but the roles of sales. You and I talked over the years. We've talked over the years about the blurring of the lines, right? We don't like to categorize people as digital sales. Sales is just sales is sales. Do you think some of what we're experiencing might blur those lines further? And I'll give you one little tidbit here. As I've worked with a few different groups of field salespeople, and I said, hey, you may not have all these things in your toolkit, but let me share some ideas around prospecting, time blocking, some technologies that you might be able to adopt that help you virtually sell, besides video. And so I say the toolkit of salespeople will be expanded a little bit tomorrow because of going through all this. So what are your thoughts about, the different roles, categories, and do we all come together as just sales?
Well, I think we all come together as just sales, but we are in functional, I don't want to use the word silos, but, we each have our own charter. I think the lines have blurred based on the whole virtual situation, but I really think we're all just in sales. Whether I'm doing the front end of the sales process or the back end of the sales process, I actually think the front end of the sales process is more important than the back end of the sales process.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think, we're all in sales. We just have to understand what is my value add to this process.
Yeah.
And how can I continue to make sure that it happens?
You and I got into this business at a time when, especially larger corporations,
when dinosaurs roamed the land.
Yeah, a long time ago, right? I laugh at people. Oh, the SDR BDR is new. I go, no, it's not new. It's just a different name to what we used to do, lead generation, right? Yep. But where I'm going is largely a lot of companies had teamed models, right? The field reps were out going face to face. They had a partner on the inside helping them or splitting the territory, whatever. And then it migrated over the last 10, 15 years to largely discrete, owning accounts, owning quotas. Some companies let the field reps do enterprise, the inside do SMB, whatever. You and I talked a little bit about the other day about maybe this team thing is coming back. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that was a perfect opportunity for people to explore team selling because it's so much easier than ever before. Team selling requires orchestration and coordination, and that was hard to do when you had two sellers with shared goals and objectives, but one was never around to have conversations. Yeah. That's different now. Everybody's always around, right?
Yeah.
So I think team selling is a great way to make sure you don't leave money on the table, in my mind. So let me just give you one very specific example of team selling, and there's many variations that could come into play. But let's say you have a solution that you can sell to companies with under 2,000 employees and over 2,000 employees. And over 2,000, obviously, the annual contract value was higher. So you want your more senior sellers focused there, under 2,000 lower. So you take a geography and you partner a junior seller, for lack of a better term, and a senior seller, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
And you say to them, junior, under 2,000 employees, senior, over 2,000. Well, what often happens is, just because I'm focused on a smaller company, I can make that deal bigger. Yeah. I can make that a huge deal because they're perfect for us. We have the perfect solution for them. Right. Before, what would happen when we were discreet was the inside sales rep would say, oh, I'm not going to make this deal bigger because then I have to give it to them and I only get half the commission. That's crazy. I'm going to keep the deal small.
Yeah.
But if you have team selling, there's no harm, no foul to bringing in your field-based seller and letting them take over. Flip side of the coin, field sellers selling over 2,000 employees, they find small deals, don't want to spend their time there. They want to keep looking for the bigger deals. They give it to their junior partner. Once again, just using that language, and they close it. You get incredible coverage when you do something like that.
When it works, and I've seen some examples of it, like 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
When it works, it's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Doesn't always work. There's a flip side of that, right? One of the two is holding the other down, that kind of thing. But that's an interesting point. Well, the time will tell if this comes back a little bit. Matt, any thoughts on this one at all?
Yeah, I mean, I like this entire conversation, right? And I think that separating it out based on size of the market. And then Trish, you had kind of gone into those separation and roles. We have all to have different skill sets based on where we are in our career, right? Some of us are really good at getting people to talk to us in that early stage and having a high level conversation versus closing the deal. And for me, I agree 100% to what both of you said. Finding the opportunity to me is the hardest part, right? That's why I love doing that part of the business. Once you have someone who's interested, right, there's still a lot of work to facilitate them through that interest period and define, how we're going to solve the problem, things like that. But I think the more you start breaking down those roles and understanding what, who's better at what, and having that really dynamic relationship between, junior sellers, more advanced sellers, your engineering, sales engineers, things like that in the tech market, the better that's going to be. And I think based on this virtual environment we have now, I think it's a great time, as I think Trish mentioned, to just start breaking that down. What does that look like? Who can insert themselves here? Because ultimately, there's one goal, right? And it's to get revenue for the organization. So whoever fits best to drive revenue, that's the avenue I want to take.
Yeah. I think we have an opportunity right now to be creative and innovative with our sales strategies.
Yes.
And I think if you think that 2021 is going to be like 2019,
think
you're
again.
wrong. Yeah, know what I mean? So now's the time to really be creative and innovative with how we approach our buyers, keeping them in mind as we build out our sales strategies. But, short term, I'm a big fan of saying to my clients, don't try to plan for 2021. Try to plan for Q1 and maybe Q2, and then iterate.
So kind of moving a little bit into performance here. So I would hear this recurring comment over many, many years. And it says, sales is a numbers game. And at first I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. And then I completely disagree with that. Even to today, I bring it up and I say, here's why I disagree with that statement. If sales were just a numbers game, anybody could do it. And you and I know it's not for the faint of heart. We have more salespeople that come in and try it that it's not a good fit. I'd like to say, yes, of course you have to have activity. Trish, I've known you over the years. You love talking to new clients, but there's something about the quality of you as a person that when you engage with a potential prospect, you get them interested and you help solve some of their problems. Talk to me a little bit about today, what we're seeing, even in the SDR, BDR ranks, where one person is successful and, it's not about the numbers. Of course, they're making phone dials and they're talking to people. Another person, very unsuccessful, they could be hitting all their KPIs and metrics.
It's about the conversation. At the end of the day, no sales starts until somebody has a really good conversation. And if you know how to execute like a Gatling gun, voicemails, emails, LinkedIn connections. But then when you actually engage with someone, you don't know how to have a conversation with them about them and their problems.
Yes.
That's the difference. It's all about the conversation.
So let's stick on that point. This is a good one. We both have lots of experience. We know how to talk to people, how to find out things, how to make them feel like we understand them, right?
I'm hoping we don't make them feel that way. I'm hoping we really do understand them.
Yes, absolutely. But, they like to have those conversations, but not everybody can do that. Does it just take time? Is it a skill? Can you teach that? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I do think at some level it's a skill, right? You have to have, the desire to have the conversation. You have to have genuine curiosity about the person you're talking to. You have to have empathy for them and their issues, business issues, personal issues, whatever the case may be. And you have to be interested in the industry that you're not only selling from, but selling into.
Yeah.
Like if you're just bored and you're in sales just because you think it's a numbers game, I don't think you're going to be as successful as someone who's truly passionate and views sales as a craft. That's one of the things we talk to SDRs about all the time is this is a craft.
Yeah.
And just like an actor has to master their craft, so do you as a salesperson.
It's like golf. It's like the guitars I have over there. It's a craft and I love doing it. I'm going to repeat some of the things you said. So if you're listening to this and you're even newer, mid in your career, some great things Trish just said, curiosity, right? Be genuine. Tell me more about that. How does that affect? Boy, that sounds like it's a big challenge. Be curious about that. Empathy, right? Care about the person. And today in Zoom, guess what? You see people in their real households with cats and dogs and kids and all that, which is maybe a good thing.
Hey, Bob, real quick, because this is extremely a high topic of interest for me personally, and I know that the audience probably really loves it as well. So I even break this into two parts, like we have a lot of things already, to where there is a science, right, to getting someone to have a conversation. There's statistics around how many calls it takes, all those things, but then the readiness for the conversation, that is the part that Trish was just talking about. We call that skill and will, right? There's this natural grit or hunger that I see in a lot of SDRs that just want to be successful on their own merit. And then there's just a general skill set that it takes to be able to hold a conversation, be natural, be very interested in what you're offering, and being an expert at what you're out there talking about. When you talk about how well Trish engages, is because she's got her 10,000 plus many hours into being an expert in that arena. So it's very natural for her to be able to help educate people on the problems that she's solving and how she goes to market, things like that. But there is an equation on just how do you get to a conversation. I still put that into more of a scientific sales behavior, right? Of, call to conversation, email to response, social to response, any of those things. Yeah. But if you do all those things right, and you get to the point where you got the scientific part of this down to how to get to a conversation, but then somebody picks up or sends the email and you drop the ball after all that activity it took to get there, I see a big disconnect there in the market where a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to get to the conversation, but then when they actually are ready to engage and have it, they're not really ready for that call or that email response yet.
A simple
you really have
tip.
to think that through.
Yeah, look, I love where you're going with this, and I'll add a simple tip. And how much time are we down to, Matt, would you say? Another 5 minutes?
We have about 15 minutes.
Oh, we do? Okay. A couple more topics. Yep. Well, let me comment on that. I call it this. I've heard this saying. I first heard it from Jill Rowley. She said, one, be interested before trying to be interesting. And hey, if I'm a salesperson today, gosh, I want to be interesting. I want to make sure what I say resonates and it's all about me, but you should be interested in the other person first. And then I finally say, keep the damn product in your bag. Well, back in the day, yes, I used to carry a briefcase and I had, slicks in their brochures, right, Trish? But I'd say leave the product away, keep it in the bag until you have earned the right to even share a possible solution, right? So, Trish, what would you say to that? Would you agree with that?
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's not how we train our reps.
I know.
Right?
Yes, you're right.
Not how we train our reps.
Yes.
We're like, oh, you got them? Now throw up on them. Like, tell them everything we do.
Yeah.
In one breath, just exhale, right?
Yeah.
So therein lies the problem. It's that we spend so much time on voicemails and emails and in-mails and videos and all of this stuff. We do not spend any time on teaching them how to have great conversations. We give them a list of questions to ask, but we really don't teach them how to have great conversations.
Yeah.
So that's on us. And this is my rant of the year. The biggest part of the problem doesn't necessarily lie with the SDRs. It lies with the AEs. Because let's say your SDR gets a meeting, right guy, right company.
Yeah.
65% or more of those will never convert. And they don't convert because the AE has lost their ability to launch the sales process from an introductory call. They don't know how to create a vision. They don't know how, they know how to qualify, but they don't know how to have a conversation that brings someone in. They don't know how to be curious. It's discovery call training should be the number one thing for every company in 2021.
Yeah, I love it. Our good friend Steve Richard, we say we have this epidemic of lack of discovery, and people. When I was before the AA-ISP, I was at a company. We train people. You have to put every possible feature in a demo. You got to make sure that you cover every feature, because some of them are better than the competitors, which was true.
Yeah.
But, I remember I had a demo once years ago, and this person went on and on and on. I had to interrupt them twice. Finally, I interrupted. I said, look, I don't want to hear all that stuff. I came here to see, does it solve this specific thing for me? Because that's my pain. Please tell. And he went on and kept going back to these features. And finally,
think about that for a minute, though. How many of you that are listening to this run AE teams, and your AEs go into a demo without knowing what problem the buyer is actually interested in solving? They don't send an agenda. They don't ask the buyer that question ahead of time. They just show up and give a vanilla presentation. And then they wonder why their conversion rates are low. I mean, if I have one piece of advice for those who are leading sales teams right now, it's inspect your entire discovery call process. Yeah. Everybody wants to inspect everything the SDRs are doing. Leave them alone. They ain't your biggest problem, right?
Yeah, that's right.
AEs, the discovery call process, major issue. That's my battle cry for 2021.
I like that a lot. I remember Oracle, by design, had 2 meetings. The first one was just discovery.
Yeah.
Your point. And then they say, look, now that we understand where you are, what you need, and we see the vision, we're going to come back and we think we can help. But that's going to be separate, right? Your thoughts on a 2-step process, or can you do discovery plus a demo in the same call, do you think?
Well, so Oracle is Oracle.
Yeah.
It's like IBM.
Yeah.
There are certain people who have brands that people will give time to.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So I think it really depends on whether someone is willing to do those 2. Most people will be freaked out by thinking, oh, no way. There's no way I'm going to get these people back in a room to do a second call. No way.
Right.
So I think it really depends. Do I think you can do both in the same call? Yes.
I do too. Yeah.
Maybe not a full boat demo, but that's really not why they're there. You just want to arouse curiosity, craft a vision, close on the next step.
Yeah. And don't throw the book at them. Just please get them what they have needs for. All right, let's kind of wind down here a little bit. I'm warming up to that nice fire here, the fireside chat a little bit.
Wait, more brandy.
More brandy. Okay.
And Bob, we have about 10 minutes. And just as a quick follow-up comment, internally at QM, some of the best sales calls that I've ever had in my entire life, we never talked about qualified meetings whatsoever. We literally just talked about the problem that they're trying to solve. And I really got thorough in understanding what that problem was before we even went to a next call. And you guys were talking about, can you do the discovery? Can you not? When I was on the tech sales side and I was selling technology, I would always set the hour call up, and the first 15 minutes would be for a little bit deeper dive in the solution of like what your problem is and how we can customize, our discovery through demo or wherever that may be with our SE or whoever may be joining the call. And I think that a lot of times if we were in that first 15 minutes and we uncovered that it really isn't a fit to the solution, we didn't want to waste people's time and take them through an hour of just product bullet point sales, which is what you guys were really getting at. The market is really horrible about, how big's the trunk, how spinny are the wheels or the tent or the windows tinted, all that stuff. And it's not a good approach to trying to understand what your buyer needs. And I think that step gets overlooked way too much.
You said how big is the trunk? I got to tell you a real story. Like my last vehicle purchase, literally, I brought a tape measure to the car dealer with me. The reason I brought a tape measure, I measured the length of my golf clubs, and I wanted them to fit in the hatchback of an SUV without the second row seat down. And so I said, here's what I need. And the salesperson did a great job. He said, well, our biggest cargo area is this. I measured it. And I give that salesperson an A, because that's all he did was show me the biggest storage space in the back. That's all I cared about, right? Didn't care about all the other stuff. So Trish, let's shift gears to the future, right? Whether it involves new technologies that are emerging to help with our selling, whether it's new roles. We talked a little bit about the team model. Do you have any predictions about the future? Maybe it's 2 or 3 years down the road with regard to selling profession, technology, roles, people, customers, anything?
No. No. I wish I could.
Yeah.
I'd put them out there and retire. No, I have no idea what's going to happen next. I mean, think about it. We are changing at the speed of light, absolute light.
Yeah.
So who knows what's going to happen next? So, yeah.
We, on that note, change. Lots of change. Some are changing well. Some are not changing well. And I got a real life example. We have a member of the AA-ISP. It's a big ink toner copier distributor, and they have about 200 local resellers, mom and pop copier businesses that go in, they serve the businesses, they bring a new toner, they bring in a new part, they replace the copier. And we pulled a call together with about 20 of them, and he said, you got to hear what's going on. I go, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I'm hearing that all the salespeople, they were literally on the road 8 hours a day, and they drop off donuts to their best customers in the morning and bring them coffee and, hey, let's go to lunch. And they were frozen. They said, we can't go in to see the customer. What do we do? And this was about 2 months in. And, we had to say, well, look, your customers are frozen too. And they have telephones, right? And they have computers, and you can do some virtual video and things like that. I think in your circles, you've largely see people move quickly and pivot, but do you have any stories around that where they haven't made the change very well? Have you seen any of that?
But no, because Bridge Group clients are brilliant. So no,
Yes.
Of course they made the change,
Okay.
I think it really depended very much on management's ability to pivot by embracing the reality of the situation.
Yeah, well said.
So there were some companies that were like, oh, this is just going to be a couple month issue. I'm not really going to pivot my strategy. Yeah, we'll ride it out and things will be back to normal. And so now they're trying to pivot, and it's like way too late, right? Because their competitors pivoted really quickly and are definitely taking advantage of that. So I think it really depended on management's. I'm laughing because in this political climate. I feel like I could be saying the same thing. But it really is depending on management's ability to look at the situation, interpret it for what it is, and then pivot based on that interpretation.
Yeah. Yeah. Matt, any perspective on, a year or two from now, what it will be like?
Yeah, I mean, Bob, listen, when you guys were sitting there talking, I was thinking about, when I go back to my Infoblox days a lot, right? I joined when Accordia, we got acquired. And around 2010, I was promoted to a field sales role in the Mid-Atlantic region. And I'll be honest with you, I quickly went back to more of the inside sales management role, which I've carried for now 12, 13 years. But I got into that situation where we were doing all that, driving around and flying to location. And I joked with Trish the other day when we were on these prep calls talking about, when we were trying to move our selling price from 50K to over 100K over the phone, and that was back in 2010. I would always joke and say, hey, we're trying to save carbon credits here. I don't need to jump on an airplane to come see you. A lot of these things can be done over the phone.
Yeah.
I think that, listen, the market is transitioning. It's been transitioning for the last 5 years to where relationship sales, they're wonderful and you should maintain them in your Rolodex, but it's not what people can enter an organization with any longer. You can't just leave an organization, go somewhere else, have these 10 years of relationships and walk in the door, closing deal after deal, because they've now put these processes in place to be able to vet organizations through the CFO channel, through other layers, to make sure that that product that they're bringing in or solution really does solve a problem. So I think we're constantly seeing this evolution of where people just don't buy from other people they know just quickly. It still happens, right? But even when you know someone and you move to a new organization, there's probably still 3, 6, 9, 12, maybe even longer months to wait before the timing is right in that organization. So I think that, listen, I think the new normal, as we're calling it, was going to be the normal anyway. We're just speeding things up really fast based on the fact that we're having to do this under the certain climate. But I think this is where we were evolving anyway. So I'm very curious to see some of the technologies and new platforms, how we're going to train people, because it is challenging, right? When you have 50, 100 employees and beyond that in a lot of cases for big organizations, maintaining that environment that Trish mentioned, because a lot of people do like being in that environment. They thrive from it. They make relationships and they have synergy with their colleagues and things like that. And there's going to be technology, I think, that comes out to help replace some of that. And then, going back over to the hybrid side, I think that we're all going to live in that hybrid world where, hey, there will be some office infrastructure. It may not any longer house 1,000 people. Maybe it houses 250, 500, wherever it may end up being. And then you see small groups of people coming in to be innovative together, because I would hope that we don't ever lose that human-to-human innovation factor that you have when you're together with people. I just think it's going to change in the way that it was already kind of heading anyway.
I agree. And, a bit of my prediction is a continued revolution in technology. I truly believe holograms are right around the corner. I know they exist today, but they're not widely utilized or commercialized. But I think holograms are going to come into play. I think instant communication will continue to improve. I think video will continue to improve. All that said, right, I think there's going to be some time in the future, and it's probably going to be more than a year. It's probably going to be a couple years out, that there'll be a bit of once everything is fully safe and all that, there's going to be a bit of a pent up demand, I think, for getting together. Right. And it may not be for a sales call. It may just be to meet, right. Whether it's at a conference, it could be just meeting a customer to meet, maybe have lunch together or coffee together. I think there's going to be some pent up demand to do that in the right circumstances. And it's sort of like if you've ever had to live on the road for a while and be away from your home. And we do here in Arizona, we go away for 4 or 5 months, and 2 years we lived out of a big RV. Boy, when we got home and I got into my office, I was like, oh yes. And there was
Bob, don't you think we're already seeing that a little bit? I mean, aren't we all just getting to the edge of that where we want to go have those social interactions? I see my team now meeting in groups of 2 or 3 to get coffee, things like that now. they're just being very safe and respectful.
Very safe, and it's a little bit awkward still, right? But I think so. Anyway, it looks like we launched. Trish had an internet connectivity issue. Matt, are we?
Perfect timing, Bob.
Good. All right. Well, not good that we lost Trish, but everyone, please go visit Trish's website, the Bridge Group. She has tons and tons of resources on there, as does the AA-ISP's website as well. And I want to thank Matt. I want to thank you, Qualified Meetings, for having us on. It was a real treat, and we hope to see all of you at maybe a future event in person sometime down the road.
We know we're going to see you, Bob. And listen, it's an honor to have you guys both here. As an SDR manager, I've been following the Bridge Group and AA-ISP pretty intensely. We hand out the Bridge Group report to everybody that comes in the organization to help them better understand statistics and things like that. So I highly encourage everyone to go and, join AA-ISP, go subscribe to the Bridge Group website and be able to get some of those reports. It's funny to see our environment evolving, right? Back in 2008, there really wasn't any support for sales development. We were just thrown a phone book, which doesn't exist anymore, at least not in outside of just a virtual capacity, and a phone, and we were thrown into a cubicle, right? And that's still a lot of the environment that I see today, and where I can tell the difference between, there's SDRs in an organization, and then there's an SDR program. And it's a big difference, Bob. You probably see that yourself, to where, a lot of programs don't really have, or SDR people don't have goals that can be measured, the right systems, training, support, versus companies that are really mature and heading towards IPO and mergers, acquisitions, things like that. Bob, thank you guys very, very much.
Okay.
We're about to head over to our next session. So thank you guys both for participating, and we'll get some more information out to our audience here about your organizations following this as well.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
B2B companies, helping them to implement modern selling strategies and process using virtual selling, sales development, inside sales, account management, what used to be field sales and has now become virtual sellers. We have the experience to deliver both strategies as well as roadmap and implementation plans that help you make your number. Check us out, bridgegroupinc.com.
Hi everyone, it's Ashley over at the AA-ISP, and we are so thrilled to be taking part in this year's Oktoberfest. The AA-ISP is the only community dedicated to the advancement of inside virtual sales professionals and organizations. Check out our website today at www.aa-isp.org, where you will see hundreds of resources from virtual roundtables, workshops, chapter meetings, research, and so much more. In fact, our next community-wide event is the Women in Sales Summit on November 5th. The summit will cover key topics such as advancing your career and the importance of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. We have some amazing women speaking too, and this event is open to all, so save your seats. Consider joining tens of thousands of other like-minded inside virtual sales professionals. Become a member today. Visit www.aa-isp.org to join. I look forward to welcoming each and every one of you to our community of passionate sales professionals. Thanks, and I hope you enjoy the rest of Oktoberfest.